All right, it is Wednesday, and I talked to you guys yesterday, so here I am again. I just looked at your your event observation assignment. I'm sorry, and that's the one where you picked a major sporting event that was supposed to happen this spring that got canceled. So some of you picked Wimbledon, NBA Finals, Boston Marathon, March Madness, Olympics. That was a big one. So just finished looking at those, and it made me miss sports. So that's a sentiment that I got from a lot of you. But I was looking for things related to that event, how it affected things like the local community, the athletes themselves, what it meant to them, what it meant to the organization as a whole. So some different aspects of how that cancellation affected the sport, the athletes, the local community, local economy. And one thing that I saw that was great was evidence of your statement. So, for example, if you said that there was a hit to the local economy, that sport provided big economic impact and the cancellation resulted in a hit to the local economy. What was great is when there were details and statistics that kind of talked about how much is usually expected and what will be missing, and maybe how that effect will ripple into future weeks. So another thing I thought was interesting were the concept of refunds versus deferred registration. So, Boston is doing deferred registration, but a lot of pro sports are having to do refunds. And I do think like individual teams in Major League Baseball are having some conflicts with fans about refunds versus postponement. So I need to read more about that. But anyway, I thought I saw something like that. Somebody that talked about the Boston Marathon brought up an interesting point in that. So what they did with Boston is they postponed it to September. So they picked a date in the fall, and they're just going to roll over everybody's registration. They're going to do it again in the fall. But they talked about, the student talked about how that's a risk. Postponing Boston is it's a noble thing to do, and keeps hope and spirit, and gives people something to look forward to, and and avoids maybe having to give refunds. But that's a risk, because if something goes wrong and it doesn't go in September, they have to do it all over again. So they not only had to interact a cancellation / postponement once and go through all that stuff, they would have to do it again. So they talked about how much of a risk that was, and I thought, oh man, that sounds exhausting. So I just kind of enjoyed that point. So anyway, that was the event observation assignment. Aside from reading notes, there is one more assignment. So in the first half of this class, we did the facility audit. That was one big assignment. The event audit is the other big assignment. That's the one where you have been doing the timesheets and task sheets for. And man, bad timing. I should have flipped those two assignments and put that at the beginning and then put the facility audit at the end. But I kind of feel like we're beating the topic of cancellations to death. It's especially as I'm reading your second set of timesheets and task sheets about your event, and one or two of you actually got your event done earlier in the semester, and that's great. But most of you, the timesheets were starting to get pretty sad and boring towards the end, I just feel like I'm asking you to produce something that's hard and difficult to do. So I'm proposing this to you. There are two components to the end of the event administration assignment. There is the event audit, where you talk about some of the administrative aspects that you were going to work in or that you were going to observe. Some things like logistics and safety, some marketing. So there's a list on your instructions sheet for that assignment there in your left menu. Look those over. So that paper, that was a paper that you had to do, was that event audit. The second component of that assignment was a digital storybook, and that's either a video or a narrated PowerPoint, kind of like what I do for class, a narrated PowerPoint with your voiceover that shows visual evidence of your work on the activity. So it might be pictures, it might be, shots of emails or preparations or unpacking boxes or, fixing a layout of the facility or beforehand or whatever you did to prepare for that event. You were supposed to be documenting visual evidence that whole time to be putting together your digital storybook. So I feel like this, like having both of those things, they go nice together when the event happens. But for now, it's starting to feel, now that I'm starting to think about it more seriously, and after I feel like we're beating the topic of event cancellations to death, it seems like overkill. So what I'm thinking that we're going to do is just pick one of those two things. So either the event audit, the paper that talks about how your event would have gone and some of those planning components in your event that were in process of getting planned, or if your event did go and you took a lot of visual evidence and you have a lot of cool pictures and you can cobble them together into a nice video or narrated PowerPoint and you want to do the storybook instead, that's fine. Either one. They're both worth 50 points. So what I'll do is I'll just chop 50 points off of the total points. So it's just 50 less points that your grade comes out of. And that assignment is basically just cut in half. So pick which one you want. I just felt like doing both of those for an event that probably didn't happen was just like beating it to death. And I didn't see the need for it. So anyway, I'll write this down in a message, and it'll be in your message. So unless you have a concern with that, let me know. Otherwise, just consider this assignment to be chopped in half. Do one or the other. They're both worth 50 points. One or the other fills it, and then it's like the other one never even happened. So those are my thoughts. So have a good rest of your week. It's raining right now. I hope to get out a little bit later, but for now I'm not worrying about it. Maybe I'll do some baking or something like that. So have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.